Hello, Helen.
Hi.
Welcome. Well, George should be with us shortly. Um, and you two apparently have a plan for today. I haven't heard about what that is yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so all the high schoolers have chosen like a topic that they really like in the media, and they've all got a little presentation that they are going to do individually. So we're going to put people into breakout rooms and let it be like a small presentation and discussion sort of thing. So it's more of like a social interaction.
Okay, sounds good. There he is. Hi, George.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
So, I'm excited. Are you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm waiting on my club members to show up, but I'm excited.
Well, we traditionally start late, so no worries.
Yeah, people seem to drift in over the first 10 minutes or so.
Okay. Good to know.
Well, George, while we're stalling, would you like to talk through our slides here?
Yeah, that'd be good. So, welcome to Senior Life Online. Please visit our website, Scotts Valley Senior Life. You can sign up for our newsletter. I think we have probably nearly 500 people on our newsletter now. So we use that to send out information. Maxine is our newsletter editor. So she's always up to date. I think she sends one out. How often does she do that? Like once a week? Or at least
at least twice a month anyway.
We're an all volunteer group of seniors. Nearly 100% of donations received are used to directly help seniors living in this area. Some of the things that we've done are provide automatic electronic defibrillator machines for Montevalli and Spring Lakes, and an exercise machine for Montevalli. We provided the patio umbrellas for the Scotts Valley Senior Center. And before the pandemic, we were doing 2 to 3 free workshops annually on topics of senior health. And we've also hosted the Scotts Valley Mayor's State of the City address. And future projects that we're working on are the new Performing Arts Center and an Adopt a Senior program, which is something we're doing in collaboration with Scotts Valley Schools and primarily with the high school, which is, that's how we met Helen and the group at Rotary Interact. And and today, Helen and members of the Scotts Valley Rotary Interact Club will present an intergenerational online media exploration. And let's see here. I was going to tell a little bit more about that. We started out working with Randy Klein as the advisor for Rotary Interact, and he's a great guy. So I've been working with Randy for a couple of years now. We started out wanting to deliver care packages to seniors to give students an opportunity to actually interact with local senior citizens. And and we've been thinking of ways that they can do that together. So in the meantime, when we got hit by COVID, we came up with an idea to provide care packages, but we've run into a number of different roadblocks as far as delivery, just because we can't allow people to come in contact with each other right now. So we came up with this idea to introduce students to seniors and seniors to students. Originally, I thought that we could share short films through YouTube, since it turns out that students nowadays, young people, get more of their entertainment on YouTube than they do actually cable TV. So, but once we began talking with Helen, it became apparent there's much more that students have to offer on the internet than just short films. So we let Helen and the student organization she works with just run with it. And now they've come up with this complete program, content and design. And so it's with great pleasure and anticipation that I'll turn it over to Helen. So take it away, Helen.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen as well. And it should be this presentation. Okay.
There you are.
Yeah, this is our introduction to the whole media thing. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background on like what media is.
High school students presenting an intergenerational online media exploration for old people. Yeah, it's being sponsored by this.
Can we mute?
Okay, so brief overview, what is media? It's essentially just communication outlets and tools that we use to store and deliver information. Mass media is more of an industry that involves print, news, photography, cinema, broadcasting, digital media, and advertising. So pretty much any branch that distributes information to the general public and makes it widely known, including social media, newspapers, etc. Popular media, I think that most people would recognize in my generation is like Snapchat, news organizations, Washington Post, New York Times, otherwise YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of these things that distribute information to the general public through some sort of means, whether it be in print with pictures or videos. So film was invented very early, and because people want to tell stories, obviously. So it started with shadow play and even magic lanterns, which was painted glass screens that would shine light through. And through the 19th century, there was a developmental period where there was rudimentary animation, photographs, the spinning things that you would look at, and there would be a moving picture in it. And they developed that throughout the 1800s into the 1900s, where they decided that they could make a lot of money by projecting it like the movie theaters that we know today. And color film was created in the 1900s, and they actually built a machine called the kinetoscope in 1906. There was a lot of issues with color flicker because, oh no, there's another me. Okay, there was color flicker because they did it by alternating red and green screens. So it would flicker sometimes between the two colors. So they spent almost a quarter of a century developing ways to get rid of the color flicker. And that was when like Roaring Twenties and film with sound actually came out, and that was called talkies. And now obviously we have digital cinematography, and there's sensors and photographs, and we all have like smartphones that can take videos really easily. And yeah, that's kind of how it developed. So old media is generally considered like television, radio, newspapers, anything that's like analog collected and distributed, whereas new media is more computer interactive, where you can like actually click on things and do stuff with it, like computer games. And obviously both types are still really important. We still have broadcast TV, and many people are web searching information all the time with radio, televisions, broadcasts, and newspapers are everywhere still. So a lot of popular genres that I would say are more pertinent to like younger generations are like movies, obviously. I don't know why I have this thing for like funny cat videos, but I do. Dancing is really popular. That's kind of what made TikTok a really big deal. And we've all read news stories about that. I'm also kind of obsessed with cooking shows and arts and crafts. And I know that like gaming is a very huge thing. So this is actually a map of like popular games by state. And from there, I think that everyone should do their individual presentations, because that's okay. Yeah, we're not doing breakout rooms, but other than that, does anyone else want to start with the presentation? Because I have mine, but I also like wrote questions because I really want there to be a discussion, because that was kind of the whole idea of this. So does anyone just want to present? Marshall Envy. Candace?
I think I can present, but I think I need to quit Zoom in order to change my sharing screen like settings. So I need to check.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Hi, everybody.
I can present, Ellen.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
And what's your name?
My name is Marshall. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about video games as an art form. And my name is Marshall Bailey, and I'm a senior at Scotts Valley High School. So first, I'm going to show some visual examples, and these will be still pictures that were taken while playing the video games. And I'm going to start with hyper-realistic video games, and then some semi-realistic ones, and then finally some drawn and animated styles, so they're not very realistic. So first, this is a game called Uncharted 4, and it's really based on exploring the environment and the surrounding.
Yes.
So it's very
Can you mute
realistic,
him,
as you
Dave?
can as you can see in this picture. And this is another example of very realistic video game. It's called The Last of Us Part 2. And the main character we see here on horseback, and this is supposed to be a post-apocalyptic setting, and this is the ruins of Seattle.
Ooh, Jerry.
And this is from the same video game, The Last of Us, and this is the main character. And I picked this picture because I thought the environment looked a little bit like Scotts Valley.
The light is beautiful.
I agree. And so moving into less realistic games, the graphics of this game, they are realistic, but you can see, for example, in the clothing and the hair, that it's not as photorealistic as the ones that I was just showing you. And this is from a game called Life is Strange, which is about a girl who realizes that she has the power to rewind time and tries to use it for the right things, but it doesn't always end up working out. And going into drawn and animated games, this is from a video game called Missed Messages, where it's very narrative based. So there's not as much of an emphasis on being able to move around or explore the environment. So it's mainly composed of drawings like this that show the story. And this is another example of drawn and animated, less realistic, but I really like the more cartoonish art style. This is from a game called Hades, where you play as the son of Hades in the underworld. So it's very based on Greek mythology, which I find really interesting. So as I just talked about, some of the types of the visual art and graphic design in video games are photorealism, so it's very detailed. There's often very smooth video, so it feels like you're actually in the game, and a lot of special effects that make it seem like real life. And then semi-realistic, where there are realistic shapes and forms, but the detailing is not photorealistic. And then lastly, art style, which could be either like drawings or comic book type of animation. And there's also pixelated games that emulate real forms, but they're not realistic. And another part of art in video games that I want to talk about is musical art, so sound design. For example, the soundtrack sets the tone and mood for each scene. So it could be exciting and fast paced for like a fighting scene, or it could be ambient and instrumental for more abstract games. So now I'm going to show some examples of music in video games. So first, this is a video of an interview with the composer for The Last of Us Part 2, talking about the music production and then playing the main theme song.
One of the great things about working with Neil in The Last
you
of
hear
Us
it?
and with Jonathan too has been the freedom that I had. And I came out, I think, with some really, really interesting stuff because of that, you know, total, license to try and do stuff. And I will try really some really out stuff and they would love that. It's been for me a very, very gratifying experience.
So that's an example of how the main theme is woven into a lot of the scenes that they were showing in the background as he was playing, and is kind of an ominous, sort of adventurous theme for the game. And next I'll show
One of the great things about working with Neil in The Last of Us and with Jonathan too has been the freedom that I had. And I came out, I think, with some
Okay, so next this is an example of music from a game called Cuphead, which is very inspired by older sort of arcade games and also the animation styles of early cartoons. So the music is to reflect that theme.
Here's a real high-class bout. Now go!
So that's a very different sort of game design and sound. So it's showing that the soundtrack of the video game really supports how the game is meant to be experienced. So in the first example, where there's a very narrative-based story, it's more about the mood and the tone of the storyline. And this is a more playful soundtrack that is complementing the really fast-paced gameplay in Cuphead.
Okay, was that everything? Then Candace, would you like to go?
Like one more thing, sorry, but it's like my computer's a little bit slow, sorry.
Okay, don't worry.
Here's a real high-class bout. Now go.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm just going to finish up talking about arguments for video games as art. So first, Roger Ebert, who's a film critic and also a Pulitzer Prize winner, who wrote a very famous blog entry called Video Games Can Never Be Art in 2005. And he argued that video games are not really comparable to other arts like poetry, films, and novels. And he said that the reason for this is because in a video game, the concept of choice, where the player can choose what to do or what to say, ruins the artistic message that the game designers had. For example, he said, imagine if Romeo and Juliet, you could choose to have a happy ending, and that would ruin the artistic message meant by the entire play because it is written as a tragedy. And so he concluded that video games may have similarities to art, but because of this choice, they can't be art. And in contrast, Chris Melisinos was a curator for the exhibition at the Smithsonian Museum called The Art of Video Games. And he argued that the process of creation is art. And because in video games, there are many different types of art that go into the creation, for example, 3D modeling, illustration, and creating a narrative for the story, that all of these combine into the art of video games. So not only as the video game is the video game as a whole an art form, but also all of the parts are arts in themselves. And he also said that the concept of choice in video games enhances the personal connection that a player can make to the storyline. So in contrast to Roger Ebert's argument. And that is all I have for my presentation. Thank you.
It was interesting. Thank you.
I have to say, oh, am I muted or unmuted?
We can hear you, Darshan. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I absolutely have to agree with Chris, what was it, Melisinos?
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with him. There is no way that on God's green earth that I think that Roger Ebert is right. I totally disagree.
I agree. I agree with you, Darshana, not Roger Ebert.
It's become virtual art. So I mean, it becomes like interactive virtual art. That's interesting.
Right. Almost like performance art.
Yeah. Except the audience has a say on what the dance does, or something like that.
Okay, Candace, you were going to make a presentation?
Yes. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yep.
so are many of you familiar with bullet journaling?
No.
No.
Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. So just an introduction. My name is Candace, and I'm senior at Scotts Valley High School. Some of my hobbies are piano, golf, crochet, photography, reading, and bullet journaling. So if you want to talk to me about other stuff, that's totally fine. So what is bullet journaling? Well, it's a different journaling method, which uses rapid logging and collections. And rapid logging is basically using different types of bullets to differentiate between tasks, events, and notes in a concise and efficient way. While collections are like monthly, weekly, and daily logs to organize your journal. So you might have a section for January and then for every day of January, depending on what you do in your day. So the creator of, or the inventor of bullet journal wrote this guide to rapid logging. So you can use this guide, but it's really flexible, bullet journaling. So you can use whatever method that works for you and keeps you journaling and motivated. So for the official guide, a solid bullet represents a task. So that's something you do every day that you need to do. A dash represents a note, something that like a fact or an idea that you had that you just want to keep track of. And then an open circle is an event, something notable that you that happens during the day. So more on tasks, you start writing your tasks down with the bullets. And so that task is still incomplete, but once you complete the task, you can just cross it out. If the task becomes irrelevant or you just don't want to do it today or something, you can just cross it out. So it's visually more easy to see what tasks you have left. So for me, I might have something like golf practice or clean the bathroom as a task. So once I finish those, I can just check them off. A note might be that on a specific day, I have a test or something fun, like I created a collaborative playlist with my friends and I just wanted to note that I did that on that day. An event might be like today's presentation or a friend's birthday. So by keeping track of all of these things that happen in my day through bullets, it's just more concise. Okay, so how can you bullet journal? Well, all you really need is a notebook and a pen. So this image right here is my setup. I actually have everything out here. So this is my notebook. And I just use a pencil, a pen, and a ruler. But you can also have a bunch of colored pens or pencils, markers, stickers, calligraphy pens, stencils, colorful paper, watercolors if you're into that too. And Pinterest and YouTube have a lot of different, inspirational or like ideas for you to try out if you're not sure what you want your bullet journal to really look like. So if I have time, I could show you guys how to use Pinterest, but we'll see. Okay. So to set up, you just get your journal and you want to create an index or some sort of way to keep track of what's on each of your pages. So typically an index comes at the end of a book, but in bullet journaling, I guess it seems like it comes in the beginning, but it's really flexible. You can put it anywhere you'd like just to keep track of everything you have. So yeah, so just put a page number and whatever's on that page. Then after you've created your index, you can start doing your monthly and weekly daily logs. So on a monthly log, you want to just have the whole month's stuff in one section. And then in that monthly section, you add in the days or the weeks of that month. You can also add your own personal little trackers or anything you want to each section. So for example, for me, I put my yearly resolutions, the books that I want to read this year, the TV shows or films that I watched this year and I liked, and stuff like that. So you can put anything you want just to help you out with your life and scheduling. Okay, so now I'll just show you some of my bullet journaling just as a, I don't know, but so even after a year of bullet journaling, I'm still experimenting with different formats. So it just shows you how flexible bullet journaling can be. And my goal was to conserve paper, so I didn't want to use a lot of paper to like create these amazing artistic stuff. So it looks a little simple, but that's fine with me. So, and I carry my bullet journal everywhere, to school, before quarantine, obviously, and I just scheduled my homework and daily tasks, random thoughts or ideas that I had. So it was nice to have a journal that could do everything for me. Okay, so this is my bullet journal. So obviously I chose some of the best looking ones, but so for a monthly log, I like to put the month in a big bold font, and a calendar just to keep track of that month's calendar. And so I really like experimenting with fonts and typography, so I always try to do a different font every month. So yeah, that's basically what a monthly page looks like. You can also add a tracker or like your goals for the month, or just notes or anything that you'd like. I just put a calendar, but okay. And for your daily logs, that's like where you write down all of your tasks and do your rapid logging. So before, I actually made boxes for each day, and until recently I didn't until recently I didn't like that. Okay. Anyways, the boxes were very restrictive, and sometimes if I had a lot of things going in my day, I ran out of space, and that was like kind of frustrating. So in the bottom right corner, this is actually last week's page. I did a rolling format, so I just did the day as it came. So I didn't like set it up, and it just took like, a few seconds just to draw a line down the middle, or just draw a line and then what day it was. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to just stop and ask.
Candace, I want to know whether that's all your artwork.
Oh,
Are you doing all that drawing there?
this top right one. So I actually, since I don't really do a lot of drawing, I take like magazines, and if I find something pretty or like cool colors or textures, I just like to cut them out like for a collage sort of thing and just stick them on to my bullet journal.
Okay, well, your pages are looking great. I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Yes. What presentation software are you using?
I'm just using Google Slides.
Ah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
I'm loving this. I just don't know that I'm organized enough. I love the concept, because it's like, yes, it's absolutely journaling. It's absolutely a diary, and it's a great way just to stay on top of everything, especially when we're seniors and we get older, and that thought comes into our head and it's gone the next minute. So if you're able to get it down, I mean, I love it. I would love to do all the artistic stuff, but I'm thinking, just looking at this, I think number 4 would probably suit me best. And I love it because you've even kept a record of the weather. It's yeah, it's I love this.
Thank you. Yeah, so you for the bottom right, you just have to draw a line down the middle to separate the day and your tasks. But if you get more comfortable and you want to, try out different like doodling or anything like that, you're always welcome to do that.
So Candace, one question.
Oh,
so
yes.
To learn more about this, we can just Google bullet journaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's also a book written by the official creator of Bullet Journal. His name is Ryder Carroll, and I think he has a book on Amazon. I don't have it. I just kind of started doing it on my own. But if you want to like look into that, you can always do that. But there's always a bunch of like YouTube channels that, dedicate their whole thing to just bullet journaling. So you can
How
always.
did you discover this bullet journaling yourself?
It was like a trend on Pinterest, and I use Pinterest a lot. So then I was looking through,
Huh.
and I also wanted to keep track of like all of my like tasks for the day, because I just started high school and it was really busy for me.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was pretty
Great.
cool.
I think that knowing how to have a calendar or how to be organized is really, really important for the rest of your life, for sure.
Yes.
How
Okay.
would you describe Pinterest?
Pinterest is, I can actually show you what it looks like. Let's see.
It's like a collection of ideas, right?
Yeah.
Creative ideas.
Can you guys see my Pinterest screen?
Yeah.
Or...
Wow.
So it's basically a bunch of pins, like images of things. And when you're scrolling through, say that you like something, for example, ooh, I kind of like this pin. So I can save it to a board, and you can just have a bunch of boards. Oh, oops. So I'll just click on this pin, and I can save to a board. So I have a bunch of boards here that you guys can see. So I might save this one to drawings. I don't have a specific one for bullet journaling, but then I can save it to drawings. And then when I go to my own profile, I have all of my boards, and I can look through and see all the ideas I've collected.
I
So
love it.
yeah, I really love Pinterest. So
I like looking at Pinterest, but I see the word pin, but I've never used it. I will now.
Yeah, they have a lot of different things. So I was just looking through. They have like a lot of recipes. I'm really into crocheting, so they have a bunch of crochet patterns. If you like outfits or fashion, they have all kinds of stuff. So yeah, you can check out Pinterest anytime.
Cool.
Yep. So yeah, that was pretty much it for my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
for listening.
Very cool.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about comedy and entertainment because quick introduction actually. My name is Kaveen Pogalindi. I'm a freshman at SVHS, and comedy and laughter is really something that's really important to me. So I'd like to talk about that. So my view, comedy is something that's really important to me as it's both like a method of dealing with problems as well. It's a helpful way to feel more comfortable in awkward situations. And in the modern age, comedy has evolved from something like comedic theater to something greater. Through streaming services, online music, and websites like Netflix and YouTube, live comedy and movies that usually one would have to go and see in person are much more widely available. And to me, it's a beautiful thing, and it's normalizing comedy as an aspect of everyday life more than it already was. So I'd like to start off with just a couple of my favorite people or things in comedy. So it has a lot of different forms in modern society, and some stuff that I specifically enjoy. I'd like to list. So with movies and stuff, I really like anything that's like pure comedy or just like uh from start to finish, or like things that blend other aspects of cinema, like a lot of the new Marvel movies and stuff, like they do that very well, where they have these heroes journey stuff or like daunting tasks, and then they keep they're able to merge that with and have aspects of comedy within them. And then I also just discovered stand up, and I really like that with like comedians like Hannibal Buress, Hannah Gadsby, Dave Chappelle, Bo Burnham, Aziz Ansari, Ali Wong, and John Mulaney. They're really funny, and obviously, stand up is something that's really interesting, and it seems really hard to do, but also very rewarding. And I mean, obviously, as a lot of you probably guessed, I watch a lot of YouTube, and mostly it's funny stuff because of how important it is to me. And some of my favorite creators are Jack's Films, Avelina Sabrina, Eddie Burback, Nikki Jakey, and Gus Johnson. And with TV, I love modern sitcoms. Really, that's my they're my favorite genre of television, and I hold a lot of them near and dear to my heart. Some examples are Parks and Recreation, The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and The Good Place. I find it really interesting how modern television can keep aspects of older television while still keeping modern events or whatnot in the mix. And there's a lot of other forms, obviously, today with the internet and whatnot. And some examples are podcasts, which I really like. And one of my favorites is the Spitballers comedy podcast, because it's just a family friendly, very funny place to laugh. Okay. A lot of my stuff is text. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get all my ideas down. But so comedy through generations. So even over the past decade or so, comedy has evolved very, very significantly. Anything that was funny maybe a decade ago may not be very funny to consumers of the content today. As a person in Gen Z, the memes that I make for my class and stuff, they might just mean nothing or be very lacking in taste to you. And the opposite is really true as well. A general cause for this reason, it's probably just, it's pretty obvious, but like events that people use that are displayed as comedic and entertainment that like wouldn't translate to people in different generations and just don't get the joke. Another reason is like the effects of different exposure levels of exposure to entertainment with like the growth of the internet. So like older generations may have experienced less of the internet or just use the internet less and entertainment less, online entertainment less than a newer generation, and that might lead to a different comedic taste, or at least in regards to how much of their life they've been exposed to the internet and that like sort of infinite pool of resources to say. So with both of these principles, it's pretty safe to say that generations that are like closer together have similar tastes in humor, and generations that are farther apart can have different tastes in regards to humor. And a big aspect of modern comedy is relatability, and so that really ties into that like the events that people make fun of and whatnot. And it's a really big aspect of modern comedy, and any form of entertainment that uses it skillfully will really only be able to affect the generations it was meant to affect, and as everything evolves by the minute. So at this point, I have a couple more slides, but I wanted to ask, what are your all's opinions? Do you have any like specific funny stuff or movies and shows, whatnot, memories, or anything that you'd like to share that really is impactful or anything? Otherwise, I can just move on.
I was thinking about that just the other day because they had a program about Bob Hope, and he was really big back in the 40s and 50s, and he was famous for a long time. And I saw him in person in the 1970s, and I was just rolling on the floor laughing. But now I go back and look at it, and I'm wondering if it kind of doesn't hold up in some cases. So I really hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's also a really big thing over time, how even with one person, no matter when they were born, comedy can change a lot as their tastes and opinions change as well.
Well, I think too with some of the comedy from a while ago, some things would be now considered, even though we're in an age of everything is out there, it also from those days is now a little bit more risque or politically incorrect, and so not acceptable by today's generations as we evolve. And just for example, the movie To Catch a Thief with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly. I mean, there's a lot of misogyny and a lot of comments that should not be used, and people would find offensive today. So
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Everything evolves over in a population. It's never nothing is ever gonna really stay the same as people's opinions, and the general public changes its opinions as well. You have with everything really, like political correctness, like you mentioned, some words that somebody could have said in a movie 10 years ago just wouldn't hold up now. You just can't say that nowadays and stuff like that.
I'm
Yeah.
glad about that. It's like a trends. It's evolution of human beings of what is humor or not. For example, like hurting animals or stuff that's hurting other people to laugh at them. That kind of thing is, I think, pretty bad for human psychology myself. But I don't know. I don't like
remember when
making fun of other people so much.
when I was growing up, one of the very popular comedians was Don Rickles, who was basically an insult comedian. And that it just doesn't go over very well today. And it seemed there was a certain point where it became much safer in comedy to make fun of yourself, and that way everyone could laugh with you, as opposed to making fun of others.
Yeah, as that really makes sense to as psychology and other aspects like that. As that information becomes more available to the public, you can see both the effect that some of this insult comedy has, with like stuff like schools, where you can see it's very prevalent and stuff where people insult each other to make other people laugh at the expense of the people that they're insulting. And so, yeah, I really agree. You've seen a giant rise in comedy, either making fun of yourself, experiences you've been to, anything that doesn't really hurt a person, because that in modern society, people realize that, and it just doesn't work.
This is Jack. I met Groucho Marx once for half an hour. It was a small group of us in somebody's house. I didn't know he was going to be there. We knocked on the door to see a friend, and for half an hour, nonstop. And he was a very elderly gentleman at that point. All we did was make fun of us, but he kept it in check. And because he was affecting all of us, we just laughed for half an hour. It was like one of the funniest times of my life, and I loved it.
Oh yeah.
What a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a treat.
So that brings me to the other point about how you were saying, Kevin, about generations and close generations kind of tended to think more alike about their views on whatever comedy was being presented. But I think an exception to that also we would take into account is those families that have a lot of intergenerational connections. They are helped to see the spectrum of comedy, because they get to be involved by seeing comedy from long ago to comedy today and everything in between, and that kind of, to me, is a little bit like a well-rounded student kind of thing.
Oh yeah. That's a great, excellent point you got there, right? Like, as somebody is has more, what's the word, exposure to different ages or generations, or generally more stuff, they are usually more understanding, and it's easier to laugh at that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously from my personal experience, I can't say I've done that, which is probably why I didn't write it, because I just didn't think of it, because my grandparents are all the way on the other side of the world. So I wasn't, the only stuff that I grew up with in regards to like older comedy and whatnot is stuff my parents watched when they were children. And even another thing to point out with that too is how different places on earth have different comedy, different versions of comedy.
Exactly. The different ethnic values on comedy and how it's presented, and
Exactly. Yeah, I see a major difference between what my parents laughed as a child, and what I do, which is not only because of the age difference, but it's because of where they were from versus where I'm from.
Right.
Cool.
Certainly true in my household. My husband is American. I'm British Indian, and I laugh. He does not laugh. He laughs. I don't really laugh. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that difference is very clear when you have those two kinds of people. All right. Anybody else have anything to say, or should I move on? Okay, cool. So yeah, I wanted to talk about comedy in everyday life. So it's needless to say that for modern generations and stuff, comedy has become like a really large factor of people's lives. But I don't want to represent like an entire demographic of people, so I'll just talk about myself. Like, something that I really dream about is having a successful comedy career, and then I can use to help the world, which is really something that maybe you've only been starting to see as television and stuff like that advances and whatnot, as stuff like this is more respected, and this actually becomes a career with like more availability and such. And so that's a really big dream for me, and it's something, and comedy is just something that I love in general. So I try to be funny every day, though. I mean, mostly it's with through Zoom, because obviously the pandemic and whatnot. But I love making memes and whatnot, and like I amuse my classmates in 7th period drama, which is really nice because it's an example of how like you can still have that space to express yourself and do what you want through Zoom and through the internet and the circumstances that we have to deal with right now.
So
And
do you do memes on what's this word looking on Zoom? You can do
yeah.
like at the very beginning when there was like this little emoji that was animated.
So basically what I do is we'll just talk for like a couple minutes here and there in the middle of class or whatever, and it just happens that sometimes these bits will just pop out of nowhere, and then we'll laugh at that, and then on my own time or whatever, I'll go online and I'll Photoshop or make a meme or whatnot, and then I'll share it with the class in some way. I can like change my background or my video, not using the Zoom backgrounds, but I can just change it to something that I want using OBS and stuff. So it's pretty neat.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So how do you make a neat meme? Is there an application for it?
Let me see if I for me, I just go on Google and look up like image editor or something, and then that just helps a lot. Like I use this thing called Pixelar. Let me see if I can open it. It's just none of my stuff is saved here, but it's just this. And really, you can use it for a lot of stuff like school projects and whatnot. It's just like a simple photo editor that I use. Yeah, and you can put like text. You can.
Okay, that calls for another Zoom class.
Yeah, probably. All right. Let me present
That
this.
is so cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat, and I mean everything's like changed over time, at least through the pandemic and stuff. Okay. All right. So, what does the future hold? So again, like I said, as a person who wants to pursue a career in comedic entertainment, the sheer options that you can see even today are just overwhelming. But it's still really exciting. You still have classic comedic theater, and it's always an option. When I don't think those are going to go anywhere, as well as movies and television from the past century, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere either. And obviously, there's also stand-up comedy, which seems really fun, and with new ways that people are exploring that, like. Excuse me. For example, I've seen a lot of musical comedy integrated to stand up that makes it really enjoyable for the audience and anybody watching on the internet, which is usually how I watch this stuff. So, and obviously a newer unconventional, I've said the word obviously a ton, but a new unconventional approach would be to start a career on YouTube, which actually it's working for a lot of people, like through sponsorships and watch time and view money. Like you can make a lot of money, and obviously you've seen that on YouTube as well. And depending on the amount of attention you get, though, which doesn't exactly correlate to the amount of how funny you are. It's just how the algorithm chooses to display videos. All right, and the last thing is I'll say is, really none of us know how comedy is going to evolve unless you're from the future as a genre, and through the way that it's expressed, like maybe in like 10 years or 5 years or tomorrow, there's going to be a new technology that'll allow us to express ourselves in a new way, like because of how modern society is rapidly evolving. So, but I'll hope I'll be ready for it. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Yes.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Anvi and I'm currently a senior at SVHS. The topic I chose to talk to you all about is Japanese animated music videos, specifically those by one of my favorite singers, Eve. I always found the clear use of lyrics and imagery in these videos to be very interesting, as they often have symbolic meanings and allow the viewer the freedom to develop their own interpretation of the songs. So I wanted to show everyone parts of one of his songs called Snow and present my own interpretation of the meaning. If we have time at the end, I'm hoping that we can have a discussion where all of you can present your own interpretations and thoughts on the video. So let's get started with the first part of the video. The English translated lyrics will be shown on the bottom. everyone hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that the music video demonstrates the conflict between reality and imagination through the use of color. In the beginning, the white, gray, and pale blue images and the lyrics pure white world imply the protagonist's dull reality. We also see a short girl in white, which I interpreted to be the protagonist's imaginary friend who has faded away as the protagonist's awareness of reality increased. We also see brief images of the protagonist in pain, in anguish, and the lyrics "It's incomplete" are repeated, which indicate how the protagonist feels like something is missing in his life. What he feels is missing from his life is color or imagination. His longing for imagination is shown through the drawing of his imaginary friend in his math notebook. When he puts on his glasses in his room, he sees his younger self, who is filled with childlike innocence and, in essence, imagination. Light comes from the window behind his younger self, implying how imagination serves as a light in his reality. When his younger self pulls the protagonist towards him, the protagonist's world becomes more colorful. The image of the protagonist in pink, paired with the words "for the warmth of those fingertips, your heart slowly began to thaw," represents the warmth and happiness he feels when surrounded by his imagination and the endless possibilities that come with this imagination. This contrasts with the blue in the beginning of the video, which portrays the reality as something that is cold. Imaginations are described as nonsense, but he still says, "I had fun," demonstrating how imagination makes his world livelier. Eve says that the words "I had fun" will never disappear, which implies how the emotions one experiences alongside the imagination will never disappear, as it is a part of who they are as a person. Even when the protagonist turns gray, when his younger self disappears and the protagonist slowly loses the imagination and innocence he had as a child, the memories and emotions experienced in the world of his imagination are still a part of his identity. So now I'm going to show the ending part of the video. The lyrics, "I kick the silver white ground," indicate how the protagonist rejects his dull reality and embraces his imagination and the color that comes with it. The chorus repeats, but the imagery is more colorful compared to when Eve sang the chorus the first time. The imaginary friend is now pink, which further illustrates how the protagonist embraces his imagination and its warmth. I believe the ending lyrics, "It would be burned into our chests and never disappear," are really significant as it shows how imagination is lured into our hearts as it defines who we are and creates a lasting impact on our lives as it shapes our perception of the world. We all grow up, but our childlike imagination never goes away. The protagonist's glasses highlight this idea. It represents the link to the protagonist's younger self. In the beginning, the protagonist needed his glasses to see his younger self and his imagination. He believed that he could only have an imagination if he was younger and that everyone loses their imagination when growing up. Therefore, he feared growing up and losing his younger self. However, in the end, the protagonist is able to see the city, his reality in full color without wearing glasses. As reality and imagination combine into one, the protagonist realizes in the end that his imagination continues to live on even as he grows older and that it will never leave him as it is a part of who he is. I believe the overall message that Eve is trying to convey is that as we may slowly lose touch with our imagination as we grow older, it will still always be a part of us as it defines how we view ourselves and the world. It's important for us to not completely lose our imagination as this imagination paired with reality makes the world more amazing and beautiful. So the biggest takeaway I wanted everyone to have was that analyzing the media we see can allow us to have a richer understanding of it and help us gain lessons that we can take with us for the rest of our lives. Whether it be in Japanese music videos, music in other languages, movies, books, and many other forms of media, I encourage all of you to look deeper and find personal meaning because it makes it so much more beautiful. So thank you everyone for listening. I would like to open up the floor to everyone now. Please feel free to share your own opinions and interpretations of the music video, or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Well, I'll
Wow.
start. Wow. That's something that I would not have looked at. And now that you have gone through all of that, I will take a look at a few more examples and see what I read into them. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting to look at the deeper meaning at stuff. So
I have to share with that is that I've never seen anything quite like that before. So it's quite new for me.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to see, is something like that. And your analysis of that is amazing. Did you come up with all that yourself?
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Well, I'm thinking about the intellect and the heart, and how do you get those two things together? So you've got me on that wavelength trying to, okay, I tend to separate those two things, you know? So you got me trying to push those things together and think of them together. So thanks, that was really good.
Yeah. I'm a photographer, and and I do what's called creative portraiture. And now you made me realize a lot of what I draw on is comes from my past.
Oh, that's
So I'll have to think about that more now.
Okay. Helen, we're back to you, are we?
Yeah, we have one left. Well, and I had a short one also, but I don't know what time limit we're working under, but I think Sophia should share first for sure.
Okay. Well, let's get to your next person. Okay, Sophia, I've made you a co-host.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. So the topic of my presentation is going to be words lost in translation. And this is just a quick intro about me. I'm a freshman. My favorite subject is English. I'm also bilingual. I speak Portuguese and obviously English. I'm currently learning Spanish and also a little bit of Italian. And I'm really passionate about language and culture, and I love exploring things like this, and I hope you all enjoy. So the first word is, I actually have some links here because I don't want to butcher the pronunciation.
Commuovere.
Are you able to hear that?
Yes.
Okay. So this word is Italian and it means to be moved in a heartwarming way, usually relating to a story that moved you to tears. So these are all words that can't quite be expressed in our English dictionary and that just have a deeper meaning that I find really interesting. And if you have any connections to these words or have experienced them in any way, feel free to stop me and make comments or questions. The next word is
Samaron.
And this word is Arabic, and it's a noun that means staying up late long after the sun has gone down and having an enjoyable time with friends. And I really like this one just because after COVID, I feel like we haven't done this a lot. So it made me miss a little bit and reminisce on former times that I've had.
I just want to say that short word, 5 letters, conveys so much in its meaning.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Really amazing. And I love just like how everyday things that we can do or like have such greater meaning that we often don't realize. And that like some languages have different ways of conveying these things. And I find that really interesting as well. And this Dutch word right here.
Gezellig.
Yeah, and you see that the English translation is literally just one word and it's like an everyday thing, but in reality, in the Dutch language, it describes much more than that. It's like a positive, warm emotion or feeling rather than just something that's physical. And it can be like time spent with loved ones or like a sense of community or togetherness, which I find really important. And I actually have a Dutch friend too. So I was talking to him about these different words because I actually am getting some information on this presentation from a book that I read. And they have a lot of Dutch words. So I found that really interesting.
Mm.
And the next word is Greek.
Meraki.
And that's how you properly pronounce it. And it means pouring yourself wholeheartedly into something and doing so with soul, creativity, and love. I think that this is just a beautiful word and that it's so important that we think about it more often and that we really apply ourselves to what we're doing because it makes the result and the product so much better. And it honestly just creates such a better takeaway from what we're doing rather than if you just do it because or just because something. And then this word I found really cute and super interesting because I have something similar in my own culture. In Brazil, we have like coffee every afternoon where we sit down and talk and just kind of take away from the day. And this is kind of similar also in this Swedish word.
Fika.
And again, the English translation is just coffee, but in reality, it's like the whole experience itself and not just this one noun that doesn't really mean anything when you look at it. But then in the definition that they provided, it's gathering to talk and take a break from everyday routines, usually drinking coffee and eating pastries, either at a cafe or at home, often for hours on end. So that's just like something cultural that they have that I find special. And this next word is has kind of a strange translation it means grief bacon, and it refers to the excessive weight that we can gain from overeating because of our emotions.
Oh my God, we need that.
Yeah. And I think that we can all kind of relate to this one right now.
Kummerspek.
Yeah.
Kummerspek.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And
Grief.
especially, yeah, grief bacon. Who would have thought?
Yeah, that's about right.
I can't wait to use these.
Yeah, I
I
found them super interesting, and some of them are like really inspiring. And we have the next one is from Spanish.
Vacilando?
Yeah, vacilando. Let's see.
Vacilando.
Yeah, and it means wavering is the Google Translate version, but it really means traveling when the experience itself is more important than the destination.
Great.
So it's about the experience and not necessarily where you're going, but just what you take away from it, which is really beautiful. And this one was interesting for me because in Portuguese we have a similar word, or like the exact same word in like the spelling way, but it actually means something different, and it's not used in this sense. So
How's it used?
Yeah.
it basically means like if you're off task or off the ball, like if you're just
Wondering.
dilly-dallying or something like that. So it kind of relates in a way to this like wandering like aspect of this word.
Right.
But
Could it be somewhat related to like procrastinating or no?
yeah, in a way, it's more of like indicating that you're doing something like poorly rather than like not doing it and like postponing it.
Off task.
Yeah, basically off task.
You're not doing it using the Greek word
Yeah, for
variety,
sure.
right?
Yeah, not utilizing your time wisely.
Yeah. And also I relate it to this whole presentation that you guys are doing about, because to me, all of this is art in some form or other. It is art, and the end product's not important. It's the process. So it kind of relates that to that to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I definitely agree. And this next word comes from Indonesian dialect.
Jayus.
And it refers to a joke that's so terrible and so unfunny that you cannot help but laugh. And I think that we've all been in uncomfortable situations where we just laugh because it's the only thing that we can think of doing. So yeah, I thought that this one was funny.
Oh, I love it. Jayus.
Yeah. And then this one right here comes from Japanese.
Just the sound of it is lovely. Wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi.
Yeah, definitely wasn't gonna try this one. And then this one means finding beauty in the imperfections and acceptance of the cycle of life and death. So I actually found out through researching this that this is like a form of art, or like a genre of art almost, where people like explore this word in their artwork. So these were some of the images that I found when I was researching that. And I found it really pretty.
Very interesting.
Yeah, they were in black and white. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just a qualification of the genre.
Wow.
And this one is a Swedish word.
Resfeber.
It's the restless beat of a traveler's heart before their journey begins. and it's like a mixture of anxiety and anticipation, which is really cool. And I love experiencing this feeling, and I really miss it because normally I would travel every year to visit my family in Brazil, but now since we're not able to, it's just kind of like missing. And I didn't even know this was a word before, and I felt it pretty regularly. So I think that's pretty cool.
It's interesting that it's one word that describes so much. And I wonder if it has to do with the fact that, well, at least historically, the Swedes, were moving, we're doing a lot of traveling or something. That's really cool that it's just one word. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it really interesting.
And actually, this is perfect for me, just as an aside. One of our seniors had passed away, and there's a memorial service next week, and she was Swedish. And it just all came to me that I can use this word and for my tribute. It fits her perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that you would really like that. The Swedish dialect, I've noticed, is like a very rich language. There are a lot of words from the book that I read from the Swedish language, so I found that really interesting. And we have this next word is from Urdu.
Buia.
Nice and short and sweet. It's a transporting suspension of disbelief, like in storytelling, if you have like an as if feeling where you're kind of like suspended in reality, which is a really good feeling to me. I love reading, and I think that it's really like special when a storyteller can like provide this feeling to its readers. So I think that it's really nice that they have a word for this, because it's often not like translated well, and like people don't talk about it or know how to express it, because often reading is depicted as like a chore, or like especially among high school students, like, oh, we have to read, or like I have to read this chapter. But it's nice to look at it from this point of view where it's more relaxing and like calming almost. And this one, I really like this one. I found it really cute. It's Japanese.
Tsundoku.
Yeah, and it's leaving a book unread after buying it, typically piled up together with other unread books, which is
Guilty.
really cute and
Guilty.
very common among lots of people. And I think that it's adorable that they have this word for it, because a lot of people can relate to it, but no one's really found a way to convey this or like make it into just one simple word, which is nice. And then we have Nas.
Nas.
The pride and assurance that comes from knowing that you are loved unconditionally. And this one is really cute, and it's always nice to feel loved and like have that sense of comfort, and I think that this word conveys it nicely. Okay, and now some that I can actually pronounce. Okay, this one is saudade, which basically in English it would be like to miss, but rather saudade is like a feeling that you have, and to miss someone is more of like a verb. So that's why they're used in very different ways. So the dictionary definition would be a vague, constant desire for something that does not and probably cannot exist, a nostalgic longing for someone or something loved and then lost. Yeah, this is a really beautiful word, and this one on the side right here, the right, it means that a saudade é a nossa alma dizendo para onde ela quer voltar. that means that it's our soul telling us where we want to go back to. So like if you ever experience any longing or desire for something, it's like your soul trying to communicate to you. And on the left is a nossa vida é uma coleção de saudades. So that means that our life is like a collection of desires that we have for ourselves, or just desires in general.
Would the one on the right kind of be a message to say that your soul is looking for peace? If that desire?
Yeah, I mean, the wanting to go back to something, that can symbolize that like you were peaceful there, or like you were happier, so you want to go back to it, or like your soul felt more at peace there, so that's why you may be having these feelings about like just like a place or someone. So yeah, I could see it interpreted that way for sure.
Could you just repeat how you say it?
A saudade é a nossa alma dizendo para onde ela quer voltar.
Saudade.
Yeah. So in Portuguese, or from the region that I'm from, we normally make the D's into G's kind of. So it's saudade. You like
Saudade.
Yeah.
Saudade.
And then the next one is also from Portuguese. It's cafuné. And this is the act of tenderly running your fingers through the hair of someone you love.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of like petting someone in a way, but like in a gesture of love. So, and some definitions have like of a lover into it, but I don't necessarily think that's true. Like it could just be anyone that you love or have feelings for. Like often parents do it to their kids and things like that. So I think that it's definitely a universal love rather than just the love you feel for a partner. And then on the right it says aqui tem fé, café e cafuné. So that's like a little saying in Portuguese that we have, and it means here we have faith, coffee, and cafuné, which is like stroking like your hair, which I think is really cute.
Yeah.
And then on the left it's te faço café ou cafuné, se tu quiser. So it's kind of like the little play on words poetry again. It's like, I'll make you coffee or I'll stroke your hair if you want.
Oh, I want both.
Yeah. And that's the end. Thank you for listening. And if you have any comments on any of the words, feel free to share.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful.
Enjoyed that a lot.
Very nice. Now I was going to say, we are recording this and we're going to post it on our YouTube channel. So if anybody has to go, don't feel too bad, but I would love to hear what Helen has to present.
Yes.
Okay, I will screen share again. And okay, so my main hobby, I'm sorry, I was gonna do like short films, but I decided that this is more of what I actually watch, and I wanted to pay tribute to all of the amazing artists that I follow. So these are works by some of my favorite artists. This was by Bobby White. This is by Geomal Creations. This is by Pablo Simadvilla, and this is by Bon. The first video, or like the only video that I really wanted to show, was by Pablo Simadvilla because he has amazing cinematography. You can see this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills when they tell me you're not yourself. Trying to move, but it's hard. I'm out of breath. Oh,
and I wanted to show just the last few minutes because honestly, the stuff that he makes out of this is incredible. Oh no, it wants to give me an ad.
Okay, it'll be worth it.
For grandson and
I know.
granddad
Ah.
bond.
Okay. And he's setting the stone, so.
Looking into my heart, saw it right from the start. It was drawn to you. Never could I imagine who you really are. Now look at my battle scars. You love me like you're strong into hold back. Then you wonder why we never last. Like you're walking on the moon.
Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to show. And at the end, he gives a statement like, I just wanted to push my creative boundaries and make something out of everyday objects that you wouldn't necessarily consider to be art. But as you can see, you can turn it from something simple and mundane into something gorgeous that you'd prize for your entire life. Yeah, so I kind of kept with this theme because I really love the hex nut and the designs that people make out of it. So this was by Bobby White, and he's a creator based in England, and it kind of walks through the same processes. But I really like how he does his filmography as well. They all do a really good job of like showing the process, but also making it like beautiful and artistic. And so obviously they all have this compass sort of tool. You scratch it out and solder it all together. So what you might not realize is that this piece of bolt is actually where the diamond is set into, and he leaves the thread on it and screws it into the base, which is also a hex nut. And he literally turns this into this amazing piece of art. And I'm forever in awe at how beautiful it turns out, really. And then this is one of my favorite channels for learning, which is like he'll teach more basic skills because I'm still a beginner. I'm not making things as amazing as this, but he'll do things like mountain range rings and like very simple how to set stones and how to do an inlay. And he recently made this scarab necklace, which I think is amazing and gorgeous. And I left room for discussion, but I was thinking that I could show some of the things that I've actually made. And so this, I took all of these off Snapchat because that's where I've saved everything. So it has like titles and like captions on it. But this was like a little flower that I made. This is actually during evacuation. I was staying at a friend's house. That's her hand, that's my hand. These were some earrings that I made, and I really wanted to take a nice artsy photo. So I took all these little seed beads, they're about like that big, and scattered them on my bead mat and did a little hanging with the wire. And yeah, I also love photography. So it's like creative outlets for me. This was more recent. I took a nail and annealed it, which is the process of making metal really soft so you can work on it, and hammered it down, made it into little curves. I'm actually wearing it right now. And I used a circular bit to put all these little divots into it. And I love it. It's really fun. And it's also great that we can turn things that are like everyday objects again into like things that we can wear and treasure and appreciate as art as well. This was an earring that I made, and obviously I hadn't finished the second one yet, but I was really happy that I finished the first one. It took me like an hour to make one earring, which is a lot for me. So I was really proud of this, and it's like faux pearls and glass. This was one of my first rings that I did with soldering. So you can see I started with just a solid copper band, and I actually sawed out the middle from here and this gap all the way to here. And the joint is actually right here. So it's soldered there. And then I added on, these were just wires that I soldered on there as well. And yeah, this is another similar to the other one. It's like a hanging spinning thing. I used to be really into these, and obviously I play tennis, so I was really excited to like finish making this. It's 32 beads across. I think there's 1,500 beads in this maybe, and
Wow.
it was like a keychain. And yeah, so those are made with a bead loom, but I won't go too much into that. This was also one of my more recent creations. I accidentally sized up a ring too much, so I like hammered it too much. It got too big, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this ring? So I made a tree inside of it.
It's gorgeous.
And this was one of my first experiments in resin, and also with what is this called? Polymer clay. And you can like roll it out into sheets and use it for making beads and making like backdrops to this. And I took some flowers and like put them inside. And if anyone has any questions or like wants to answer any of these, feel free.
How can we follow you?
I actually don't have social media. I'm so sorry.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've been thinking of getting Instagram, but I haven't yet.
Well, now we know
Do
you.
you have an Etsy?
No,
Etsy
I'm
site?
actually like, I know every time my friends are like, you need to sell your work. And I'm like, okay. And then I don't do it. See, everyone in here is like smiling because they've each individually told me to sell my stuff at some point, and I haven't yet.
Well, that
Well, it's
was
beautiful.
very, very interesting. And definitely those artists that you showed, I mean, that's incredible. Out of nuts and bolts, making the jewelry. It's wonderful. And I loved your hammered ring out of the nail. Great idea.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice.
Well, that was wonderful.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it
So I
from
know
me.
we're running long, but I think it was well worth it. And I want to thank all of you for the amount of effort and creativity that you put into your presentations. I feel like that was very special. So thank you all. And as I mentioned, we will be posting this.
Yeah.
Darshna, did you?
Yeah, I do. I really want to thank you guys. You've just opened up a whole new world in so many different arenas. Just understanding, Marshall, you did a fabulous job on the social media. It was just really interesting. I'm going to be looking at all that animation and so on very differently with a different eye. Definitely, Candace, the bullet journaling. I love it, and I want to learn more about that. And Kevin, great presentation on the comedy. I mean, that was really wonderful. Anvi, my goodness, I've never looked at Japanese animated music videos, and now I am going to be looking for my own translations there. And Sophia, oh my goodness, I love the words lost in translation. I'm going to be definitely looking into my language, Gujarati, and finding some words similar. And Helen, absolutely wonderful. Really love looking at your work, and for you exposing us to those other artists. So thank you, everybody. I loved it. This was my first time. I've been meaning to join you guys at Scotts Valley Senior Life for a long time. It's my first time, and so impressive. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, George.
Okay, glad you joined us, Darshna.
Oh, yeah, good to see you, Darshna. Thank you so much. So let's see, our next program is going to be on April 5th at 4 p.m. The Santa Cruz Animal Shelter will be talking about our wildlife neighbors. So they'll teach us all about the wildlife that surrounds us. So we'll look forward to that. You're all welcome. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. And thanks again. And thanks especially, Helen, for all that you put into it. So It was been a pleasure working with you.
Yeah, all good presentations. Thank you very much.
Hi guys.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for
Bye,
having us.
everybody.
Join us April
Thank
5th.
you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, all.